innovating until LG Chemical became what it is today, a global leader in chemicals. Busan was the launch pad for many companies that went global and that propelled Korea's industrial development. Busan has grown into a mega city with 10 million people living in the greater Busan Gyeongnam area. It is the bedrock of Korea's infrastructure industry and the driving force behind the country's growth. Busan's transformation inspired Korea's transformation. On the strength of our legacy and innovation, Busan is gearing up for another great transformation.
We developed our own hydrogen fuel cell system in-house, and we are planning to apply it to our entire commercial car lineup from 2028. It feels like we are at the brink of a new era, one that we are creating ourselves.
We are building an eco-friendly power plant. The plant will produce and store electricity made from new and renewable energy sources. Our goal is to ultimately become a global green energy service provider.
On May 2023, we expect to finish building a liquid hydrogen plant with annual capacity of 13,000 tons, making it the single largest producer of liquid hydrogen in the world. By then, there will be more than 310 hydrogen refueling stations in Korea, and hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles will become more accessible.
Isn't it amazing? This AI-equipped electric car's fuel is a rechargeable battery made by younger generations. Busan is waiting to share its story of struggle and success with the world. We are waiting to create a new future together through Expo.
Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. The opening ceremony of Invest Korea Week 2022 will be starting very soon. So for those of you who are still outside the lobby, please enter the hall and have your seats. And please make sure that if your cell phone is on a silence mode. And we provide you the simultaneous interpretation service throughout the event. Please tune to channel 1 is for Korean, and channel 2 for English, channel 3 for Chinese, and channel 4 for Japanese. Invest Korea Week 2022 will be live streamed online in addition to being held as an in-person event. For Korean viewers, you can watch the live stream on the KOTRA YouTube channel, and English speaker may watch it on the Arirang TV YouTube channel. The live stream will also be available on the IKW website. I look forward to your much attention. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone. My name is Kim Kyung-mi, and I'll be your host for the opening ceremony of Invest Korea Week 2022. With distinguished guests from around the world with us today, we shall now open IKW 2022. But before we begin, let us observe a moment of silence for the descendants of the tragic crowd surge in Itaewon area, which has plunged our nation into mourning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's start the event with a brief introduction of IKW 2022. Let's take a look.
South Korea's economy has overcome disruptions in the global market by turning them into growth opportunities. Through the efforts of the public, Korea achieved rapid economic growth and democratization at the same time. However, the global economy is being challenged by monetary tightening undertaken by many countries around the world, as well as the fallout of conflict in Ukraine. Despite these challenges, South Korea remained unfazed, backed by its strength in the battery, biotech, and semiconductor industries. The energy industry is in chaos, while the world is reporting the worst droughts and heat waves in recorded history. South Korean-made batteries, which are key to a carbon-neutral future, are becoming the global standard. Excluding China, South Korean battery makers are leading the world in market share and are recognized for their advanced battery technology and safety. When COVID-19 spread globally at a frightening pace in 2020, there was a lack of essential medical workers, and existing healthcare systems could not cope with the spike in new patients. When the pandemic hit, South Korea emerged as a leader in next-generation biohealth by displaying world-class technology in the manufacture of vaccines, diagnostic kits, and masks. After South Korea successfully rolled out its homegrown SkyCoV-1 vaccine, it became just the third country in the world to have developed both a vaccine and a therapeutic for COVID-19, following the US and UK.
Over the past 3 months, chip makers cut earnings expectations at the fastest pace in 14 years amid weakening demand and other factors.
Despite the ongoing crisis and other looming threats, South Korea is powering ahead in the semiconductor industry as a world-leading chip maker. Korea became the first country in the world to begin mass production of 3-nanometer chips, and soon after announced the adoption of a 1.4-nanometer fabrication process. The nation is leading the field in semiconductor technology and poised for a second renaissance. Attracting global investments may allow us to overcome the global supply chain crisis. In 2021, South Korea saw more foreign direct investment than in any year of its history, proving once again that the country is a stable and attractive destination for prospective investors. Invest Korea encourages investors to make their bets on South Korea. We would like you to join us at Invest Korea Week 2022.
Thank you very much for your attention. Yes, Invest Korea Week is Korea's biggest investors relation event and has returned for the first time in 3 years. It's an event where investors can learn more about Korea, its attractive investment environment. Invited speakers will share information on successful investment strategies and promising investment opportunities and strategy. Invest Korea Week is hosted by Korea's Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy and organized by the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency, KOTRA. And this annual event was first held in 2006, but in 2020 and 2021, due to the COVID pandemic, it was streamed online and broadcasted to viewers. And now, in 2022, we have prepared a great opening ceremony here at the Grand Intercontinental Seoul, Parnas, with on-site guests. And for everyone who is watching this event online, we thank you very much for being here with us. And over the course of 3 days, and under the theme of Invest in Open and Innovative Korea, IKW 2022 will be offering numerous investment information events, which include a global investment forum, a regional specialized industry presentation on battery, Bio-pharmaceutical, and Semiconductors investor relation event with a focus on innovative firms and a global battery tech day. And furthermore, it will provide investors to learn about investment opportunities in Korea through various channels such as individual business meetings on offline and online. And we also have prepared events such as a press conference for foreign journalists and industrial visits so that news outlets from around the world can report about Invest Korea Week 2022 with all the information they need. We look forward to your much attention once again. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to introduce our special guests and speakers at IKW 2022. And first and foremost, let me introduce Mr. Moon Dong-min, the Deputy Minister of International Trade and Investment at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. Please welcome him. Thank you very much for your attendance. And also please welcome President of KOTRA, Mr. Yoo Jung-yeol. Thank you very much. And also we have with us Commissioner of Invest Korea, Sean Chang. Thank you. And the Foreign Investment Ombudsman, Dr. Kim Sung-jin, here with us. Thank you. And we also have a distinguished guest attending this Global Investment Forum to deliver the keynote address today at IKW 2022 in a moment. Richard Baldwin, Professor of the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies, Geneva, is here with us. Thank you very much. Yes. And for our featured speaker, we have Mr. Stephen Pierce, Global Manufacturing 4.0 leader at IBM. Thank you very much. Yes. And from Germany, we have Mr. Bernd Stenger, head of Herius Epcurio, who is also a Korean investment promotional ambassador. Thank you. And let me now introduce our speakers from different key industry sectors. First, representing the battery industry, we have Dr. Son Gun-seok, who is the Vice President of Global R&D Umicore Rechargeable Battery Materials. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. An Jae-hoon, Vice President of SK Bioscience, Strategic Corporate Development Office, will be representing the biopharma industry. Thank you for your presence. And to speak about the semiconductor sector, we have Dr. Shin Hoon-yu, Vice Director of National Institute for Nanomaterials Technology at POSIC with us today. Thank you. Wonderful. And next, we introduce the representatives of the Foreign Chamber of Commerce in Korea. First, Mr. Dirk Lukat, Chairman at the European Chamber of Commerce in Korea. Thank you very much. And please welcome Mr. Martin Henkelmann, President of the Korean-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you. Yes, and we have Mr. Liang Xiaojun, Chief Representative of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce in Korea. Yes, I am very pleased to introduce Mr. Seo Young-hoon, Chairman of the Korea Foreign Company Association and also CEO of Solvay Korea. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm very pleased to introduce next Mr. Chung Dong-soo, Honorary Ambassador of the Foreign Investment Promotion for Korea. Thank you very much. My pleasure to introduce next Mr. Chung Jong-young, Director of Investment Policy at Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. Thank you very much. Great. And the head of KOTRA Foreign Investment Support Center, Mr. Lee Kyung-sik, here with us. Thank you. Yes, we also like to welcome Mr. Robert Bryce Cerevo, CEO and founding partner at Hubstars Ventures. Thank you very much once again. We really appreciate them all for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, as COVID has hampered the flow of communication between countries and people, IKW has made an extra effort to prepare this event by inviting prominent speakers and organizing various events that cater better to the needs of investors. So let me now introduce our first speaker to deliver the opening address. Here is Mr. Yu Jung-yeol, the president of KOTRA, which is the organizer of the Invest Korea Week 2022, will give the opening address. Mr. Yu, the floor is now yours. Please welcome him.
네, 여러분 안녕하십니까? 코트라 사장 유정열입니다.
Good morning, everyone. I am President and CEO Yu Jung-yeol of KOTRA. First of all, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences for the tragic in Itaewon. I mourn the victims of the accident and offer my most sincere condolences to the bereaved families and the injured. I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Korean Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy, foreign investors visiting Korea, as well as representatives of foreign investment companies, foreign chambers of commerce in Korea, offices of free economic zones, and local governments who have come here today despite your busy schedule. My special thanks goes to Professor Richard Baldwin and Mr. Stefan Pierce of IBM Partner, and Mr. Son Gon-seok of Umicore, and Vice President An Jae-hoon of SK Bioscience, and Vice Director Shin Hoon-gyu, and Mr. Shu Ting-oh of Herus. Invest Korea Week is an investor relations event representing Korea. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this event has been held online in the last 2 years. And we are finally here in person after 3 years, and I am very happy to see that. And Invest Korea Week will be held for 3 days from today under the slogan of Open and Innovative Investment Destination Korea. Through various project programs, including the Global Investment Forum, Battery Biochips and Regional Specialized Industry Forum, Investor Pitch Event, Global Battery Tech Day, and Offline Business Meeting, Invest Korea Week is a venue for domestic companies and investors to have meaningful opportunities. In today's forum, great Korean and global scholars and the best experts in each field will give insightful presentations. Particularly, Professor Richard Baldwin will give a keynote speech under the theme of recovering the supply chain through foreign direct investment. And this year, we prepared the event focusing on battery, biotechnology, and semiconductor industry, aka BBS. And I believe this week will provide the opportunity for foreign investors and Korean companies to make win-win measures for cooperation and discuss investment projects both on and offline in these fields. And global supply network is rapidly reorganizing, and we also have inflations and interest rate going up. These circumstances are shaking up the global economy. Despite of all that odds, it is very encouraging that foreign investment in Korea are rising. The accumulated reported amount for the third quarters was the highest ever at more than $20 billion, confirming once again that Korea is an attractive and stable country to invest in. And investment grew not only quantitatively but also qualitatively, in that most of them focused on cutting-edge industries. So investment in the manufacturing industry largely grew, which is noteworthy. There are many factors behind the successful stories, but one of the important fact is that Korea's industries are globally competitive. Korea has settled as a leading company in the semiconductor industry, foundational industry referred to as the rice of the industries. And battery industry is also playing an important role in drawing global investments into Korea. In line with the worldwide transition to the EV market, the excellence of Korean batteries is making investors keep an eye on the Korean market. In addition, the COVID pandemic has once again made us realize the importance of the biotechnology industry, and Korean biotechnology companies have come to gain global competitiveness, enabling Korea to leap forward as a global vaccine hub. I hope that Invest Korea Week will serve for us to overcome the crisis shaking the entire world with open innovation and further prepare the driving forces for future growth. And KOTRA will work hard to contribute to the stability of the global supply network and further vitalize the Korean and global economy through corporate investments and exchanges of cutting-edge companies. Once again, thank you for coming here. I wish you good health and much success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was the opening address given by Mr. Yoo Jung-yeol. Once again, thank you for your sincere address. Now, since the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy is hosting IKW, the Mr. Lee Jang-yang, originally planned to be here with us and deliver the welcoming address, but as he could not be here today, Mr. Moon Dong-min, the Deputy Minister of International Trade and Investment at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy, will be giving the welcoming address on his behalf. Please welcome him.
Good morning, everyone. I am Deputy Minister of the Ministry of the Trade, Industry and Energy of Korea, Moon Dong-min. The minister was also supposed to participate in the meeting today to celebrate the opening of the Global Investment Forum, but due to some issues, he was not really able to the event today. I'd like to sincerely give the deep condolences to the victims and the bereaved families due to the accident in Itaewon. From now, I'd like to sincerely congratulate the opening of the Global Investment Forum, and I'd like to express my gratitude to all the participants, the representatives of the foreign chambers of commerce in Korea, and the foreign investors, and all the related stakeholders from the local governments, as well as the investment companies as well. And also, I'd like to also express my gratitude to the Ombudsman, the Mr. Ombudsman, for the investment, as well as the CEO of KOTRA. Now we have held Invest Korea Week online due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's a very great honor to really have the face meeting as well. And now with the slogan, Invest in Open and Innovative Korea, IKW, the Invest Korea Week 2022 will be also a very meaningful event for the making more attractive and open and innovative Korea. Distinguished guests, now the global economy is also facing a lot of unpredictable changes like the high oil prices, unstable supply chain, as well as rapid increase in interest rates. These are the unprecedented complex crises. According to the UN Conference on Trade and Development, by the third quarter of this year, the investment from the overseas has been declined by 10%, especially on the new facilities and constructions. With the global hegemonies and unavoidable the crisis and challenges, and now there are a lot of the movements to really seeking the stable investment destinations by securing the stability and efficiency. Now for the past 5 years, we have achieved like the $20 billion for the last 5 years in terms of FDI in Korea. Last year, we have recorded high, the $29.5 billion, which also achieved a lot of the quality investment. Of course, despite some of the unfavorable conditions, now we have achieved more than $20 billion for the third quarter of this year for the first time, showing very favorable conditions for the FDI, the foreign investment. Now we can see that we have the three advantages for the Korea as attracting destinations of the investment. First, with a high-level trade and investment network, we are also very open and innovative the trading country. As we started and signed the FTA with Chile as of 2004, as so far we have signed FTA, the 18 FTAs with the 58 countries, and the coverage of the FTA is exceeding more than 85% of the global GDP. Now, a lot of the global companies, beyond the Asian companies, as well as the global market, Korea is being highly appreciated as an attractive destination. Second, with a competitive base industry, the structures, we have also seen very favorable the conditions for the economic rates with the rapid economy among the OECD countries, not only in the semiconductor, vaccines, and the secondary batteries, as well as advanced industries. We also have achieved very, very good advantages and competitiveness in the semiconductor and the steel, shipbuilding, automobile, and the chemicals. Third, we are having the world-class innovation capabilities. As of the 2021, we have ranked the first among the 60 countries in terms of the Bloomberg Innovation Index as of the 2021. In terms of the patent activities, we have achieved the first, and we also achieved the second in terms of R&D intensive capacity as well, with showing very world-class labels. Now, as we are having very creative and well-talented people, these were very backbone and foundations that we were really able to attract a lot of the foreign investment. And taking this opportunity, I'd like to also thank all the investors who are taking a lot of the trust and attractiveness on the Korean market. Distinguished guests, the Korean government, to overcome those crises like high interest rates and high inflation and the low growth of the economic rates, we have also tried to put our efforts to really expand the foreign investments by contributing a lot for the stabilizations on the supply chain, as well as pursuing investment-led growth strategy. In doing so, we'd like to also highlight the private sector-led investment strategies are very, very attractive, good opportunities for the foreign businesses in the EV, semiconductor, AI, battery, biopharmaceutical, and energy. In various fields, we have also announced a large-scale investment plan, which are worth about the $1 trillion for the next 5 years in the new industries in the future. In this regard, we'd like to also see that there are a lot of the room for the further opportunities, especially in the semiconductor, batteries, and display in advanced industries. Based on the National Advanced Strategic Industry Act, we will be putting our utmost efforts for the technical development and also nurturing human manpowers. In addition, to really improve the conditions for the industries, will be also equipped with the strategies for the transformations on industries, not only taking investment, but also securing more efforts to improve productivity and securing new talents and pursuing the entrepreneurship. Will be also establishing the new strategies for the private and the public sectors based on the coordinations to really induce the company-friendly investment conditions for the new policies. In this regard, we'll be putting our best energies to really make the Korea as the most attracting investment destinations by the globe and the open innovations and also more the collaborations with the stakeholders. Based on the IPEF and the CPTPP, will be continued to our network with other global companies, as well as providing the global supply chain as well. In addition, along with the tax reduction, cash grants, and support for the side lands, we will strengthen our the support on the incentive system as well. In particular, in terms of the semiconductor battery vaccines, we'll be also putting the more efforts to stabilize the supply chain upon with the national strategies. Distinguished guests, and now we have contributed a lot, and the FDI, the foreign investment, was one of the contributing factors for the Korean global economy, the growth since the 1960s. Now we see that the FDI has also accounted for the 79.9% of the domestic export, as well as the 5.4% of the employment within Korea as of the 2020. And these very unstable and uncertain economic challenges, we will put our most efforts to really pursue the economic policies. But despite the challenges, and this will be very meaningful event that we can also open a lot of new opportunities and chapters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your warm welcoming address, Deputy Minister Moon Dong-min. And he delivered the message on behalf of Minister Lee Chang-yang. Thank you very much once again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's watch a congratulatory message from Mr. Andre Nothomb, head of APAC Solvay, a global chemical company based in Belgium. So let's meet him on the screen.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak for the Invest Korea Week. I've been joining this event annually. In the past, I was working in Korea since 1990, stayed there until 2016. And I must say, Korea has been through a lot of crises, but always came on top. Now we are going through a difficult period globally, and I'm sure it'll be the same in the future. For Solvay in Korea, we started in the 70s and have invested repeatedly in all kinds of projects, which always gave us satisfaction. Along the years, Korea has been through tremendous progress, and Solvay has invested in Korea since the 70s. We have been through all kinds of projects there, which always brought us satisfaction. That's also thanks to Invest Korea and KOTRA support along the years. The support provided came in all kinds of pragmatic manner, including cash grant, for which we have been really grateful. Whenever we have a project, Korea remains on our shortlist as a destination for this investment. That's because Korea has really top-notch infrastructure as well as qualified personnel, which is very important for the success of our projects.
Thank you very much. Please give him a big hands. Thank you, Mr. Andre Nothomb, for your great messages. I could see that he has kept a long-standing friendship with our country. Once again, thank you. IKW is not just an in-person event that is being held for the first time in 3 years, but it is also being streamed online all over the world. So before we move on to the next, I'd like to acknowledge one of very important guests. We have a former Australian ambassador to Korea, Mr. James Choi, who is now the honorary ambassador of foreign investment promotion for Korea and managing director at J2 Advisory. He's joining us online. Thank you very much for being here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the opening, we have listened to a congratulatory messages, and we shall now move on to the Global Investment Forum, which is a part of IKW. And we'll listen to outlooks and insights from experts in Korea and from around the world who will talk about the global economy amidst turbulence in the market, as well as trends in the Korean investment environment and industries. And the global economy is experiencing a multitude of headwinds in 2022, and a few of the causes are global supply chain disruption and the war in Ukraine, which is impacting the transportation of goods across border and dampening the investment climate. And under these circumstances, many efforts are being made to overcome the global supply chain crisis and attract investment. Invest Korea Week is doing its part to make this happen. So for now, our keynote speech to begin the Invest Korea Week 2022 Global Investment Forum, we have Professor Richard Baldwin, who will give his outlook on the global supply chain crisis. And he is a professor at Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies, Geneva. And his speech will be about the recovery of the GVC through FDI expansion. So I'd like to invite Professor Richard Baldwin onto the stage for his keynote speech.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, we're awake today. Let me start by thanking KOTRA for giving me this opportunity to share a few thoughts with this very important audience, very influential audience. I wish we would have time for questions and answers, because I often find the smartest people in a room like this are not up on the stage. But I'll try to do the best I can in the next 20 minutes. And I also want to apologize that I am not an industry expert, certainly not in semiconductors, bio, and batteries, although I actually wrote a paper on semiconductors in 1985 with Paul Krugman, which still has some resonance today, and been following that particular industry. Indeed, I've actually never had an honest job in my entire life. I think my salary all lifelong has been paid by taxpayers. I've been a professor for most of that time, and I actually worked in the Bush White House for 1 year, but that still was a tax-paid salary. So I always admire people who have to face every quarter the need to make a payroll, to invest, to make hard choices. So it's with that I apologize that I'm not going to be speaking very specifically, but much more, say, in aggregate level. The world has lived through truly remarkable events over the last 2 years. Each of us, professionally and personally, have lived an amazing thing for the last 2 years. For the first time since World War II, the entire world has lived the same experience at the same time. And because it was all on TV, we could see the experience that everybody else was living through. The cause of this harmonic in the human experience was a terrible pandemic. It robbed millions of their lives and billions of their livelihoods. We can hope that this sudden, traumatic, and synchronized event is over, or at least starting to be over. Which is why we can hold events like this, which start to look to the future rather than worry about the past. But COVID in particular distorted global value chains and had impacts that were massive. On one hand, COVID led to demand distortions as people, especially in North America and Europe, switched from buying services to more goods. And they changed the way they bought those goods from buying them in shopping malls to online. That demand twist created a great deal of turmoil in many global value chains. And on top of that demand distortion came the direct supply shocks from COVID-19 lockdowns, which fortunately weren't synchronized worldwide. They happened to move around the world so that some of the supply chain was open all the time. Now, I think it's worthwhile pointing out that global value chains and investment, foreign direct investment, was one of the great heroes of the pandemic. If it had not been for global value chains, healthcare providers and first responders around the world, but especially in Europe and the United States, would have had to deal with sick people without proper protection. It was the ability of supply chains to generate incredible numbers of personal protection equipment. It was the ability of global value chains to produce billions of units of vaccines in an incredibly short period of time. Now, I know that in many quarters, global value chains are viewed as a problem, and global value chains performance in COVID is an indication of how things must change. But I would submit to you that that is exactly wrong. If it had not been for global value chains and the efficiency and the diversity that come with them, COVID would have been far worse for humanity all around the world. Now, I want to move from the past to the future. And I want to talk about recovery, investment, and at the end, chips, bios, and batteries, the kind of main themes of the conference. Let me start with recovery. Recovery. When you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Now, honestly, I'm not really sure what that means. But it felt that it captured how I felt in the last 2 years. That now was a time to catch that last knot and perhaps start climbing back up. Now, I know many of you in this room, it was not a relaxed 2 years. You people who are running global value chains, trying to make things work, it was 24 hours, 7 days a week working. And now is recovery where the economy is going to start to pick back up. And the good news is it is. Goods trade is recovering. This is a chart that shows the world exports in billions of US dollars from 2006 quarterly up until latest data 2022 second quarter. And what we see is this is the last bit of the extreme run-up in global value chain, which led to expanding trade at a very rapid rate up until 2008, when we had the Great Trade Collapse. And the Great Trade Collapse did lead to recovery, but since the recovery, trade has been relatively stagnant with some ups and downs. And this, then, was the COVID shock, which was a trade collapse nowhere near as large as 2008, and a very quick recovery. But as you can see, something unusual has happened. The world of trade in goods has recovered to far above the pre-COVID, and perhaps even looks like it's going back onto the pre-2008 trend. Now, we don't actually know whether that's a new trend or simply compensation for delayed consumption or whatnot, but it is definitely good news that the recovery is underway. New opportunities for producing things that are traded is underway. FDI flows have also recovered. This chart goes from 2010 yearly. It looks at FDI inflows and cross-border M&A in billions of dollars, and it goes all the way up into 2021. The data is delayed compared to trade. And what you can see is that the relatively flat, a bit ups and downs, foreign direct investment was met with a very large drop in foreign direct investment during 2020 because of the COVID shock, for all sorts of reasons. But we can also see that in 2021, the level of FDI and cross-border mergers has rose to higher than it was before. So FDI flows on this macro level have recovered, suggesting that there are opportunities, there are important new things to do in investment. Although, of course, part of that recovery is making up for lost ground. Lastly, there's rising optimism. What this figure looks at is investors expressing more optimism in 2022 compared to 2021, and it tracks investors' optimism from 2014 all the way up to 2022, and the purple line on the top is the optimistic people. People are feeling more optimistic than they did the year before, and you can see it's up to 63%. The black line is people who are feeling more pessimistic than they were the year before, and you can see that's declined between 2021 and 2022. So let me ask you, how many people here are in the smiley face crowd of more optimistic in 2022 than you were in 2021? Please raise your hands. Okay, I guess that's why you're here, right? Now, how many of you are in the black crowd, or the black line crowd, where feeling a little more pessimistic this year? So you don't have to raise your hands there as much. There we go. Okay, there's some honesty here. Personally, I'm very much in the optimistic crowd. because although there's some headwinds, really the world is, in my mind, in a recovery phase. We may have some recessions and whatnot, but for other reasons I'm going to talk about in a second, I think this is a time of change that's creating lots of opportunities. Okay, so let's talk about the headwinds, the things that could go wrong, and this is nothing momentous. The Russo-Ukrainian war is an enormous shock to the economy, to the world economy, to the world geostrategic situation, and so far it has delivered some truly historic shocks and changed things in many, many ways. My hope is we've seen the worst of it in terms of commodity shocks, both in oil and gas and also in food, and also in terms of geostrategic tensions and rising weaponization of interdependence. I hope we've seen the top of that, but this is a war that's ongoing, and things in war can be very, very unpredictable, so this is one of those headwinds. The second one is inflation. All around the world, inflation's picking up, in part because of the shocks, the commodity shocks that came with the war, and some of the sanctions that followed it. Inflation itself is probably not the largest shock. It's probably not at the point where it will undermine social stability or something like that. But it's leading central banks to tighten interest rates, and that rising interest rate cycle probably isn't over, especially not in the United States and especially not in Europe. And that tightening interest rates can make investment climates more difficult, and definitely for companies in countries who've borrowed a lot. That may lead to some emerging market crises, but it seems that the lessons from 2008 were learned, and most of the emerging markets, the large ones, are nowhere near as fragile as they were in previous decades. Third is a recession, and here it's likely that some parts of the world will go into recession that might last, but most people are thinking it's, and I agree, relatively shallow recessions, which are things that happen when central banks are trying to cool down inflation. And lastly is COVID. As I was hoping, we're at the beginning of the end of COVID, but who knows with a disease like this? It still could lead to lots of shocks. That's not what I think is the mainstream, but we have to keep in mind that not everything is rosy going forward. Okay, now let me come to invest. Change creates opportunities. The world is changing. I think we can all agree with both of those statements. When a lot of money is to be made is when things are really changing. And the world we live in now is really, really changing. If you think about 1990 to say 2020, that was a moment where everything seemed possible. Offshoring was expanding, trade was expanding, countries seemed to have quite peaceful trade relationships. It looked like the East and the West models of capitalism were going to be able to get along pretty well. And in the last couple years, maybe say starting from 2016, that's increasingly looking different. But that doesn't mean bad. If you're an investor and looking for opportunities, the main thing is things are changing, there are new ways of doing things, we must change how we're doing things, and those are opportunities. Or at least that's how I'd like you to think about it. In particular, I want to talk about changes in risk and changes in policy. What I think was really changed in the last couple years was a movement from idiosyncratic risk to systemic risk. I know many of you in this room are deeply involved in global supply chains and logistics and all sorts of practical matters of international trade. And therefore, I know that you know all about risk. In fact, that's pretty much all you do all day long is try and make sure that the supply chain keeps working despite the risk. But until recently, those risks are what we might call idiosyncratic. An earthquake in Japan a flood in Thailand, a strike, a boat stuck in the Suez Canal. Those were risks which were sector-specific, usually country-specific, and relatively limited in time. What we have seen developed in the last few years is much more systemic risk. First one being climate change and extreme weather. Climate change, with the hotter climate, the more energy in the atmosphere, is leading to more extreme storms. So extreme that they can knock ports offline for months or years. It's a systemic shock because it can affect many sectors over long periods of time, and sometimes several countries at once. And this is a set of systemic shocks which is advancing faster than it was before. The second is US-China tensions, which are certainly not getting better and may very well intensify. And again, this is systemic because it affects many sectors, many countries, and over prolonged periods of time. So the strategies of dealing with idiosyncratic risk in global value chains are not the same ones to deal with systemic risk. And lastly, the one that's frequently talked about is digital technology, which is disrupting many things, changing many things, but also opening up many opportunities. In some sense, what's interesting about digital is that it doesn't change everything. It's like a shear. Some things in your process or your business are completely transformed very rapidly by digital, but others not. And the hard part about digital is some things get ripped up by digital and others don't. So how do you knit together this shear which is created by digital advancement? Okay, change GVC climate. This is the policy. There's this new word, friendshoring, which is very important in this conference, in this context, because investing in Korea in many parts of the world is considered friendshoring. And there is a move to rearrange global value chains in order to have production facilities in friends. That certainly includes Korea. The second is weaponized interdependence, which is a name that's recently come up. And that has come up especially in the sanctions against Russia after their invasion of Ukraine. People are using supply chains, countries are using supply chains in order to react to geostrategic actions of other countries. And in this world where supply chains become tools of public policy, the attitudes of governments towards those supply chains is changing, especially in critical industries. Lastly, nationalistic industrial policies, of which you're all aware, especially in the semiconductor industry. Countries have decided that a number of industries, and I'm going to talk about 3 of them in a second, are not like they used to be. So let me get to that before I end. Chips, bios, and batteries. Let me first talk about the usual suspects for muscular policy, and then I'm going to talk about the new ones and why they're there. Chips, med, and batteries. There are a certain number of sectors in the world that are now and always have been considered very different when it comes from governments. And those are sectors where the perception of risk in the private sector is very different than the perception of risk in the public sector. So the most obvious example is food. No government around the world is fully allowing the market to decide how much food gets produced in their country because the risk management of farmers alone does not really address the problems of the nation if there is a famine. So all countries have very muscular policies to influence where food is produced and how much of it is. And as a consequence, there's in many countries a glut of food. The other one is in armaments. almost all countries who can afford it encourage domestic production of armaments because they're not willing to let private sector's judgment of the risk of not having the armaments be the determinants of the national risk. So they influence the location of armaments. Now, what I would argue is that because of the changing nature of semiconductors, semiconductors have slipped into that first category. Partly because semiconductors have become so critical in so much of our economy, but also the evolution of the industry has led its production to be concentrated in so few places, especially places that are potentially subject to geostrategic risk. And so governments around the world are treating chips differently. The same thing with medical products. Until COVID, most people didn't even know where their vaccines were made or the precursors were made. But after COVID, countries are starting to view at least some medical supplies and medical products as falling into this first category where the government must influence where it's done. And batteries, that's just starting. So batteries are typically very, very pivotal in many, many things, but especially with cars, given how easy it is to assemble electric vehicles, the location of the battery often tends to determine where the industry is. So it's starting to become more of a struggle in the industrial policy space. So I'm going to stop right there. I wish we had time for questions and answers. I wish I could talk with you much longer, but I will end there and say thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Baldwin. Thank you for sharing your insights on how the role of foreign investments can help address the global supply chain crisis. Thank you very much. And now we have diverse presentation to be delivered by special guests today. And our next speaker will give a fresh new perspective on the investment climate of Korea in 2020 and what makes the country an attractive destination of investments. Here is Sean Chang, Commissioner of Invest Korea, which is a Korean investment promotion agency. So Mr. Chang, please come forward to the stage. And his speeches will be about sustainable growth with innovative Korea. Let's take a listen.
Hello, I'm Sean Chang, the Commissioner of Invest Korea. First of all, I'd like to thank you for attending Invest Korea Week 2022. And I'm glad to meet you offline for the first time in 3 years. And now that we have reached the end of prolonged pandemic, we're still facing various crises such as global value chain disruption. However, as always, I believe we will find solutions to the crisis. And I'm sure Korea will be one of the solutions. And today I'm going to tell you about the solution. It seems all of you already are paying attention to Korea, but I will tell you why you should pay more attention to our country. Let's start with a question. Which band has the most YouTube followers in the world? And the answer is Blackpink. 4-member K-pop girl group who debuted in 2016 has more than 82 million YouTube followers. And K-pop group BTS plays second with more than 71 million followers, and famous Canadian singer-songwriter Justin Bieber follows after them. And let me just go another question. This drama won 6 awards this year at the Emmy Awards, the most prominent event in the entertainment world. And do you know the name of this drama? I'm sure you know. The answer is Squid Game. And before we begin, in earnest, let's hear Director Hwang Dong-hyuk's acceptance speech.
Hwang Dong-hyuk, Squid Game!
Since Squid Game got 14 nominations at the Emmys, people keep telling me I made the history, but I don't think I made the history by myself. Because it was you who opened up the doors for Squid Game, invited us here tonight at the Emmys. So I believe, I have to say, we made all history together.
And as Director Hwang said in his speech, Korea wants to make history with you. And let me tell you how. To know Korea better, we need to learn about Koreans first. 82. This is a country code you need to dial to Korea from overseas. And I don't know if it's coincidence, but 82 is the best number to describe the characteristics of Korea. 82 is pronounced 빨리 in Korean. And the word 빨리빨리 means something similar to the English word ASAP, indicating the enthusiasm of Koreans to handle any tasks very quickly. And I'm sure most of you know ROK, the abbreviation for Republic of Korea. However, today, I would like to suggest Rhythm of Korea for ROK. The Korea has this excitement, traditional cultures that express Korea's unique excitement, such as 사물놀이, 판소리. They have been inherited and is practiced to this day. And so such culture is not just inherited, but is developing through the combination with new cultures. And through this, Korea is developing its unique modern culture. And two characteristics are basis of innovators' DNA of Korea. And Koreans are leading the world's innovation. Korea's innovation can be confirmed with the figures. South Korea is one of the most innovative countries in the world. And in the Bloomberg Innovation Index, which takes into account factors such as patent activity, value-added manufacturing, and R&D intensity, Korea ranked first in 2021. And Korea topped this list 7 times in the past 9 years. Korea is also leading the world not only in technology but also in culture. BTS, again, who debuted in 2013, is heading beyond Korea's borders into the world and is informing the younger generation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals by utilizing their influence. BTS's Permission to Dance, I'm sure most of you watched it, this video, which was performed at the UN General Assembly in September last year, recorded a total of 75 million views, which is 7 times the maximum views of official YouTube channel of the United Nations. And let me tell you about Korea, a country led by Koreans. In 1953, when the Korean War ended, Korea's GDP was only 1.3 billion US dollars. Since then, Korea has been the fastest growing economy in the world. In fact, Korea is a small country, ranking 108th in the world in terms of area and 27th in terms of population. In contrast, Korea's economy is big, not small. The country ranked 10th in the world of GDP, 8th for trade, and 13th for domestic market size. In addition, Korea ranked 6th in the national power ranking, combining economic and political aspects. Lastly, Korea ranked 4th in the Economic Complexity Index, the index based on diversification and complexity of every country's export basket. International credit rating agencies evaluate Korea's economy as a stable one. Moody's, S&P, and Fitch, the global top 3 rating agencies, all rank Korea among the world's top countries. And it is noteworthy that Korea was among the highest credit ratings in Asian countries. Based on its excellent economy, Korea is leading the global high-tech industries. Technical error, ironically. And these are the Korea's top 10 export items of 2021. As a slide, Korea manufactures high-tech products such as electronic integrated circuits, motor cars and other vehicles, and cell phones, and exports into the world. Korea's high-tech products are leading the market also. The Korea product accounts for more than 50% of the global market in DRAM, SSD, flexible OLED TV, and shipbuilding, and for more than 20% of the global market in EV battery. Considering that Korea's population is just about 0.6% of the entire populations, these figures are quite surprising. And not only are Korean products, but also Korean companies are leading the global market. As of 2022, 15 Korean companies, including Samsung Electronics, Hyundai Motors, are among the Fortune Global 500, and this number is expected to increase even further. With the growth of industries and companies in Korea, global companies are also expanding their investments in Korea. Global companies invest in various fields of Korea. But I will focus on investment cases in the BBC industries, which is the theme of today. And let's first look at the semiconductor industry. Korean semiconductor manufacturers such as Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, and DB High-Tech DB High-Tech are leading the global market. Global companies invest in all semiconductor fields to strengthen cooperation with Korean companies. And recently, various companies have announced plans to invest in Korea, not only for manufacturing, but also for R&D. Next is biohealthcare industry. The government's active policy to promote industry and demand for anchor companies such as Samsung Biologics, SK Bioscience, and Celltrion are leading investment through vaccines and bio-pharmaceutical raw material producers. Company S from Germany and Company C from the United States announced plans to construct production facilities in Korea. Last but not least, the battery industry. Battery is a key component for future cars, and Korean companies such as LG Energy Solution and SK On stand out in the industry. Belgian company U opened up a new R&D center to expand cooperation with Korean companies, and the United States company S recently announced plans to build a next generation secondary battery production plant in Korea. The Korean government is expanding supply chain cooperation with countries for the smooth management of companies. The government is trying to minimize the impact of supply chain disruptions on individual companies through discussions on individual supply chain cooperation with major countries and participation in global supply chain consultative bodies. Also, we're trying to expand accessibility to global market through FTAs. And over the past 5 years, Korea's FTA network has expanded from 78% to 85% of the global GDP. And the world is paying more attention to Korea. In 2021, the inflow of foreign direct investment into Korea recorded an all-time high of $29.5 billion. Global companies expressed their trust in Korea's sustainability, which continued to operate without a shutdown even during the pandemic. In addition, foreign direct investment inflows up to the third quarter of this year are also increased by 18.2% year-on-year, reaching all-time high of $21.5 billion. And despite the global interest rate is hiking and economic downturn, the inflows of foreign direct investment into Korea is steadily increasing. And international organizations and the media, such as the World Economic Forum, The Guardian, and OECD, are also paying attention to Korea. In particular, the OECD welcomed the Korean government's plan to stabilize supply chains of strategically vital goods on September 21st. And I would like to mention that the government's plan is highly recognized not only by the domestically, but also internationally. There's a saying that goes, a friend in need, a friend indeed. Those of you who are promoting cooperation with Korea in the crisis, such as in pandemic and global supply chain disruption, are true friends to Korea. And Korea is expanding economic cooperation with friend countries. Koreans have a tradition of treating old friends and friends from afar with sincerity. In line with this tradition, Korea will actively support your investment in Korea. From R&D to manufacturing, Korea will support you with its world-class industrial capabilities and infrastructures. Thank you for paying attention, and I hope you can explore great investment opportunities throughout our programs we've prepared. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chan Chang, Commissioner of Invest Korea, actually has the answer to our questions why we should invest in South Korea. Thank you very much once again. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our next special speaker is Mr. Stephen Pierce, who is a Global Manufacturing 4.0 leader at IBM. So please welcome him onto the stage. And his lecture is called Global Semiconductor Industry and Future Collaboration. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'd like to thank you for your time today. And I would also like to preface my comments by expressing my heartfelt sympathies for the tragedy that occurred and for this time of mourning. As an engineer in the high-tech industry, I've tried to leverage my knowledge and experience to help family members, friends, and society to bring new technology to help them. And I hope that during this conference today, we can talk a little bit about what we can do to work together to prevent such tragedies from occurring in the future. So not just talk about manufacturing or investment, but also talk about how we can work together to support society. And I've been asked today to focus my discussion about chips and about the opportunities for Korea-US partnerships in the semiconductor industry, particularly arising from the national initiatives that are occurring, most specifically the US CHIPS and Science Act. Along this line, I will have a slightly different perspective from some of the other presenters today. First of all, I will focus, of course, primarily on chips versus bio and batteries. And also my perspective is not of a government agency or as an academic body, but rather as a member of industry who is looking to manage the fluctuations and risk and uncertainty of many of these changes in order to drive business growth. And also the opportunities that I see are less relevant to the challenges that many are discussed in this event as far as investing in Korea, and almost from the opposite perspective, how Korean companies can take advantage of investments such as the CHIPS Act to drive business growth, but actually deliver your solutions and your products and your technologies to the US market. So in that sense, my perspective is not invest Korea, but maybe partner Korea. And IBM is actively looking to partner with Korean technology and solution providers to drive some of these solutions to market. Of course, we not only have a strong relationship currently in the semiconductor space with most of our semiconductor products being produced here in Korea that are embedded into our storage systems and our computing systems, but of course we have strong existing technology relationships as well. And so I'd like to start out by talking a little bit about why IBM is here and talking about semiconductor manufacturing. As you may know, IBM makes significant investments in research to realize the next generation of computing. From most notably, we're known for quantum computing and trying to drive research that will accelerate the use of quantum computing. But we have a global network of research centers working on both basic and applied research in areas from materials and physical science, mathematical science, of course semiconductors and systems, and computer science, also cloud computing and artificial intelligence, in security and cryptography, and of course quantum. And all of these researchers are focused on driving these 4 strategic thrusts that you see here: hybrid cloud, AI, security, and quantum. Semiconductors and advanced semiconductor technology is foundational to all 4 of these strategic thrusts that IBM has. And so we are investing significantly in research that will drive semiconductor technology to enable these new capabilities and these new strategic thrusts. IBM is, our work in the semiconductor space and research is most significantly evidenced by our work in New York. We have the Albany Nanotech Center, as you can see here, which is a partnership with the state of New York and NY Creates. It has a 300 millimeter fab focused on research that manages about 5,000 active wafers and runs 24/7 by 365. We use this site to develop and test advanced semiconductor design and manufacturing technologies, including extreme ultraviolet lithography and nanosheet technology that is enabling the latest generation of 5 nanometer and 2 nanometer process nodes. We're also conducting research around advanced logic to accelerate AI applications, as well as alternative memory technologies such as magnetoresistive RAM, and then of course materials to enable quantum computing. IBM has also commercialized many of these key semiconductor assets. In particular, our SciView manufacturing execution system is being used to manage production within almost half of the 300 millimeter lines globally. We embed our latest semiconductor investments in our SciView roadmap to ensure our clients and partners have access to industry-leading capabilities. And of course, we realize that to achieve our research goals, we must build an ecosystem of technology partnerships. Our partnerships span from semiconductor material providers, of course equipment providers, IDMs, or integrated device manufacturers and foundries, and then also EDA tool providers or electronic design automation tool providers as well. And these partnerships form the foundation of what we're doing in Albany, but then also in how we're engaging with the US government around the CHIPS Act. In fact, there is a coalition we call the American Semiconductor Innovation Coalition, whose members are all working together with the US National Science and Technology Center to ensure that our technologies are leveraged as part of the CHIPS Act. So based upon this experience, we see I think as was alluded to by Professor Baldwin, significant opportunity and challenges in the semiconductor industry. We see that there are both short-term volatility, as you've probably seen in the news, where there have been announcements by memory and computing and foundry companies around delaying investment in new capacity and about shortfalls in orders. You've also seen probably evidence of assemblers having issues in China, for example, with Foxtron having issues and having to shut down some of their manufacturing capacity for iPhones due to COVID breakouts. So there's significant volatility in the market. Also, there will be short-term declines in computing or applications for computing and wireless applications that will impact memory and logic manufacturing. But on the flip side, automotive and EV manufacturing and battery manufacturing have significant requirements for semiconductors, and the demand will exceed supply for 2 to 3 years at least. And so we see continued strong demand for some of the applications, which I believe Mr. Shin and Mr. Son will talk about in subsequent presentations, around power power management ICs, and then of course batteries. And then of course one of the most significant pressures on the market right now are the national strategic initiatives such as the CHIPS Act. This is causing both challenges in the short term around how to manage a shift in sourcing and in partnerships towards friendly countries away from traditional legacy partners. And then of course this presents tremendous opportunity as huge public investment is opening up the opportunities to support reshoring of manufacturing capacity. The U.S. CHIPS Act in particular provides access to $52 billion to both U.S. and companies from friendly countries to build manufacturing capacity and innovation in the U.S. with, of course, concurrent job growth. Of this $52 billion, $11 billion is allocated to research and development of innovative semiconductor technologies. And so there is both tremendous opportunity that we see here and then also some challenges in navigating how to get to that growth. The other thing is, you've probably seen that Micron, for example, made some announcements recently that they will, in line with the CHIPS Act, make significant investment in manufacturing capacity. So many of the leading semiconductor companies, including Samsung, have announced investments in U.S. Manufacturing capacity, which will amount to over $200 billion over the next 10 years. So there's tremendous opportunity. The question is, how do we take advantage of that? So the implications to companies looking to take advantage of these events are that we need to transform manufacturing. Of course, we'll need to navigate the short-term volatility of the downturn in 2022 and 2023. But then we'll also need to expand innovation in both leading and mature processes. So there are already significant investments by Samsung, TSMC, SK, Hynix, et cetera, in driving leading process nodes, in driving manufacturing for 5 nanometer and eventually 2 nanometer capability. But many of the mature nodes over 28 nanometer require the greatest transformation. Many of these sites are operating not at 300 millimeter wafer size, but 200 nanometer, and so they're capacity constrained. Also, the degree of automation for these sites is relatively low, so there's a tremendous opportunity to transform manufacturing of some of these products, of analog and power management ICs, and bring in the lessons learned from the leading manufacturers. One of the most pressing challenges is actually not a technology issue, but it's a people issue. Decades-long underinvestment in the U.S. in local capacity has resulted in a relative desert of manufacturing infrastructure and expertise. New fabs are being started in both established manufacturing centers such as Texas, Arizona, and New York, but also in states with relatively limited infrastructure and expertise or talent necessary to drive next generation manufacturing. For example, Ohio and Indiana. So partnerships with local universities will certainly address some of the short-term or some of the long-term issues around access to talent. But decades-long experience of process engineers in Korea, in Taiwan, and in Japan will be missing from these sites. And so we'll need to look for new models to transfer knowledge and expertise to these sites the traditional models of skill development, specifically co-location of key resources, will not scale sufficiently for these operations. And so we really need to look for AI tools, for example, to harvest knowledge and transfer knowledge, and tools like AR and VR to optimize training and make the knowledge transfer process more efficient. Also, there are key issues with new fabs in time to acceptable yields or production level yields. So the whole scaling process and production ramp becomes a key issue. Plant managers will need to use new tools such as using process digital twins to develop simulations which will help them to anticipate any potential yield issues and accelerate production ramp. Also, the integration between the MES, or Manufacturing Execution System, yield management, and enterprise resource planning systems will be important to give visibility into management, into plant performance, and understand true product cost. And then also, sustainability has been a nagging issue in the semiconductor space, but the investment in new manufacturing capacity presents new opportunities to embed sustainability into plant operations, from product development through manufacturing to the supply chain. This will provide insight into energy optimization, and then also provide end-to-end visibility for products and traceability, which will be critical, particularly in some of these new solutions such as EV batteries, both for regulatory compliance and then also for access to recycled materials. At IBM, we're investing to address many of these issues with our clients and our partners. As you can see in the bottom right chart, we have specific hardware and software capabilities that will address many of these issues, such as design for sustainability or virtual global single factory. And then we're also investing in digital twin, process digital twins to enable adaptive production scheduling, and then also real-time process control. We also have assets around intelligent asset management to reduce downtime and improve throughput. And then also a data fabric which will enable integration of rich data from existing tools as well as other sources of data to provide a better view of plant performance. And so we're actively looking for technology partnerships, not just investment, but partnerships to co-invest and co-develop some of these new capabilities to really drive the next generation of manufacturing and bring that to some of these new construction sites. So the benefits of this will be really across the board. By working together with our partners, we anticipate significant opportunities for revenue growth and improvements in throughput, but then also in using some of the solutions on the right, be able to improve operational efficiency of plants, and then also provide advanced insight into any product quality issues to ensure that the best product is delivered to the customers. And then also to better manage both inventory, to optimize inventory, and capital expenditures to drive overall business performance. Now, one thing that I've found in managing partnerships over about 30 years is that the vision and the ideas of initiatives such as the CHIPS Act and a partnership are fantastic, but implementing them requires a very structured approach. And so we've developed this approach to engage with many of our partners. It's called Agile Innovation. And the fundamental idea is to treat the partnership like a lean startup, to focus on speed of decision making and speed of delivery and flexibility to pivot as industry and markets change. And so what we've done here is we've followed this structured approach and really driven it from the research point, where we will do co-research or joint development or joint research, to co-development of new solutions, co-building those solutions, and then jointly bringing those solutions to market. And if we follow this structured approach, we found that we're much more successful in delivering. And we'd like to work together with you to try to drive this collaboration forward. The scope of the partnering includes both access to IP and joint development and research, but then also sharing technology, and then also in delivering services to make sure that our joint clients will realize the value of our joint solutions. A couple of examples of work where we've done this work include working together with a chief manufacturing transformation officer and a robotics provider to deliver a new solution which will double manufacturing productivity using existing capital expenditures. Another area that we've partnered is to work with a robotics and an innovative robotics manufacturer to enable automated product quality monitoring that reduces labor costs as well as human variability in quality inspections and relies on a mobile robot to do much of those inspections. And we've even delved into the medical technology and biospace, where we've worked together to combine advanced image analytics with 3D printing to enable surgeons to have a physical 3D printed model of a patient before they ever step into an operating room to enable them to be more efficient and effective in their care. So these are just a few examples of the types of partnerships that we pursue, and we'd love to do them together with you. So in summary, it's a tremendous opportunity to really transform, to grow manufacturing. But we can't do it alone. None of us can do it alone. We need to partner to realize this transformation. And partnering requires a structured, effective operational model for ecosystem management. So with that, I'd like to end and thank you for your time again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Pierce, our special speaker, for your interesting presentation. Thank you very much. At IKW 2022, our program theme is Invest in Open and Innovative Korea. And in this event, we are discussing ways to overcome the global supply chain crisis by expanding investments in strategic technologies such as batteries, and biopharmaceuticals, and semiconductors. And we use the abbreviation BBC to label these three important sectors: batteries, biopharma, and chips. So now we would like to introduce leading experts in academia and business involved in the PBC sector in the next part of the forum. So now we'll begin with inviting Dr. Son Gun-seok, Vice President of Umicore Rechargeable Battery Materials, to give his speech. So now he is ready on stage. Please welcome him with an applause.
Thank you, Master Ceremony. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gun-seok Son, leading the global R&D of rechargeable battery material in Umicore. I'm very happy, and it's my honor to present our company's investment here in Korea. Before I start talking about our investment here in Korea, it will be better to explain our company to help you better understanding why and what we are investing here in Korea. So our company is a leading circular materials technology company with extensive expertise in material chemistry and metallurgy. And then we are providing solution for the automotive catalyst and rechargeable battery materials and recycling. That is not the end of our pillar of the company. We are also doing the recycling to support scarcity of the raw materials. So we are providing precious metals from catalyst and also the cobalt, nickel, lithium from the rechargeable battery materials, and then rare earth materials, and then bring it back to the customer. So we have a very unique model with our internal drive. And then we also support megatrends. Megatrends means the mobility transformation from internal combustion engine to e-mobility. So this is a good example. So far, we are supporting automotive catalysts for internal combustion engine to purify harmful exhaust gas. And we have also rechargeable battery material, cathode material, to bring energy to the vehicle, electrical vehicle. And these two material solutions is providing plug-in hybrid vehicles. And it's not the end. We have also pure cell catalyst. That is helping. We are the sole supplier, like here in Korea, to Hyundai. And then we are recycling these materials with end-of-life product. So we bring back to the customer these precious metals and rare earth materials. And we are not big company compared to our conglomerates here in Korea. But in Korea, we have more than 1,000 people is working. It's not small. As you can see in Asia, we have around 3,000 and then more than 1,000 here in Korea, very small country. As Mr. Sean Chang mentioned, we are in a small company, but 1/3 of the Asian, our colleagues are working here. So this is a good example how we are now working in the rechargeable battery material. We are starting from the ore, we are purchasing, and then with our Umiko way, it's a sustainable way, and then we are smelting, and we are not doing the smelting itself, but we are doing and refining and the precursor and cathode material. With this one, we are supplying the cathode material to the supplier, and then end-of-life product is coming back to us with the recycling. So recycling is the sustainable tools to provide the less CO2 and then helping the scarcity of the raw materials. So this is our company, and then you can better understand why we are investing here for what. So here in Korea, first, we invest for automotive catalysts in 1987 in Onsan. And it was very successful to support Korean OEMs to be a global player. And then with the good trust with the Korean government and the local government, we reinvest in Korea through the rechargeable battery material in 2000 in Cheonan as a plant and R&D facility. And after that, we also look at the pure cell plant in Songdo, nearby our R&D center of automotive catalysts, which is established 2015. So as you saw, we have 4 pillars of the business, right? And then we have 3 pillars are here: fuel cell, automotive catalysts, and rechargeable battery materials. So it means Korea is a very trustworthy and then investable country to go together. This is not talking because I am Korean. Coincidentally, I'm located here to have this function in Korea. Okay, so mainly I'd like to talk about battery material invest because this is the theme of this investment activity is one of that is a battery. So in Cheonan, we have a plant and R&D center. On the pandemic dark periods, we daily invest the huge amount to build up new R&D center. So total area is 50,000 square meter. And then we have a good subsidy from the support from the Korean government through KOTRA and the local government. So this is a new our R&D center in Cheonan, and then very near future we will add 3-digit people, R&D people hiring here in this R&D center. This R&D center, with this R&D center, we are ready to jump again in the technical leadership of the rechargeable battery material and to support our customers' need. So as a closing, we have a good trust in Korean society and the mutual confidence. That is the reason we have multiple investment cases since 1987. And this is also result in healthy growth of Umicore in Korea and contributing advanced technology leadership. And also the smart manufacturing process with automation and high quality with our global standard and talent pools into Korean society. As an example, in our R&D center, 11 nationality colleagues are working together. And with 20 years mutual relationship, not only the KOTRA, but also with the local government of Chungcheongnam-do, we reinvest in a R&D center, and then that is preparing our upcoming growth together here in Korea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Son, for your presentation. We knew that Umicore has become a rising player in the battery industry, and we heard that keen insights about the rechargeable battery business environment in Korea, thanks to his presentation. Now, the second presentation we have today is from the biopharmaceutical sector. Here is Mr. An Jae-hoon, Vice President of SK Bioscience Strategy Corporate Development Office. And his presentation will be about SK Bioscience growth strategy and globalization initiatives. So now he's here with us. Thank you. Please welcome him.
예, 안녕하십니까. 오늘 발표를 드리게 된 SK 바이오사이언스 성장 지원실 맡고 있는 안재훈입니다.
Good morning. I am An Jae-hoon, the Vice President of the SK Bioscience.
I'm going to be presenting in Korean. 먼저 오늘 행사에 초대해 주셔서 감사하게 생각하고
First of all, thank you very much for this giving the opportunities to give my presentation today. It's my great honor to give the presentation. And I'm going to cover the overview on the SK Bioscience and the biopharmaceutical industries in Korea. And I'm going to also talk about the pathway, how we are able to grow, as well as the potential the cooperations along with the foreign businesses as well as the foreign investors. First of all, for the biopharmaceutical industry around the world has been rapidly grown, and also the Korean market is not an exception. The global biopharmaceutical industry has been also seen a lot of the importance along the pandemic. As you can see here, the domestic biopharmaceutical market has been rapidly grown with the annual rate of the 15.8% to the 1.2 trillion won as of 2009 to the 7.01 trillion won as of the 2021. Probably the growth was able to be grown from the COVID vaccine and the COVID pandemic, and as you can see here, we have seen and achieved about the 45% of the annual growth rates from the 2015 and 2021. For the overall growth, as of the 2021, the
biopharmaceutical industry has been highly appreciated in terms of the significance and the impact due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Between the public and the private sector investment have also achieved the record high ever, with more importance and significance on the biopharmaceutical industries. As you can see here, as of the 2021, we have signed about the 25 the technical export for the contract and worth about 9 trillion won, but actually indeed that amount it will be exceeding that value as well. And in particular, we are currently developing the 540 candidates for the new drugs as of the 2021 in terms of the biopharmaceutical industries in Korea. In this regard, the global biosimilar markets will be also the top players, especially from the Korea, achieving the second rank in terms of the production capacities of the biopharmaceutical industry. In this regard, under these circumstances for the biopharmaceutical industries, I'm going to share with you about the specific conditions and circumstances that we were able to grow and develop from the SK Bioscience. It was not standalone efforts, but also upon the coordination and cooperation with the partners and the stakeholders, we were really able to achieve such a very rapid growth for the past few years. I'm going to share with you some of the specific results. SK Bioscience has actually started about the vaccine, the business, about 2 decades ago, and we are supplying by importing the vaccines in the beginning stage. We established the research center about 2014. It has been only 9 years that we actually started the production via our in-house production sites and the plants. Before the pandemic, especially for the flus and the polio and smallpox and the pneumococcal vaccines, and as we have a lot of the partnerships and collaborations with the 4 categories for the vaccines, we have seen a lot of the efforts, and we are still developing the new pipelines for the pneumococcal vaccine and the polio and the typhoid and the next generation vaccine as well from the global partnerships with other countries. As of the 2020, we have also developed the SkyCoV-1 in-house the vaccine for the first half of this year upon deciding in developing the COVID vaccine, like the CMO with AstraZeneca, as well as CDMO with the Novavax. And now we are also fully reaching our capacities for the supply for the COVID vaccine by utilizing our production capabilities as well as the facilities. In case of the SkyCoV-1, our in-house vaccine, we were able to reduce the production time by 2 years. That is actually takes about 10 years upon the typical processes. And this also has proved a lot of the safety and effectiveness. This was not really standalone efforts by our own companies, but with a lot of the partnerships. And for instance, the fundings from the Bill Gates Foundations for the Global Access Program like CEPI and the Washington College IPDI Research Centers and GSK, as well as the MFDS and the KDCA, IVI. We are really able to see a lot of the accomplishments and the innovations in terms of the supply, authorizations, development, and also the study on very different sectors. In this regard, we are seeing and feeling and experiencing a lot on the importance and significance of those global cooperation and collaborations with other partners and stakeholders. In this regard, now it's a time that we are going to focus on the more research on really giving out the outputs that we have put in the past so far. In this regard, upon the innovation for the SkyCoV on our vaccine, we believe that we have taken a leap forward from the status as a vaccine provider and developer, but at the same time, we are also trying to develop and plan a lot of the contributions for our societies based on our investment and our input. And as we have the SK Bioscience, the version 3.0, we have the mission to provide the global innovations and the global partners as a new missions under the SK Bioscience. To achieve these visions and missions, we have 5 business strategies, and for the dealing with the COVID pandemic, and for enforcing a lot of the approaches and plans for the globalization and localization and portfolio diversifications, and the CGT, the business launch, and our growth for the SK Bioscience, and the R&D, manufacturing infrastructures, as well as the platform securing and M&A and global cooperation systems, as well as the management infrastructures are our key priorities that we are focusing now at this point of time. As mentioned before, for the localization strategy was also touched upon in the before. I'd like to share more ideas on that. The SK Bioscience is taking the localization strategies by securing the local hubs. So we have the theme and the idea, the globalization via localization, which is the globalization strategies. Under the COVID pandemic, a lot of the countries have seen a lot of shortages. Therefore, the vaccine technology and production facilities were definitely needed of the pandemic. In this regard, SK Bioscience, under these circumstances, to provide and also have the collaborations with the governments and the businesses in need, and absolutely we will putting our best efforts to produce and establish the global production centers, which can also with the flexible production capabilities as well. In this regard, for the faster and accelerating and optimize the vaccine supply and the provision, so that we can absolutely ultimately supply for actually improving the public health around the world by achieving those objectives. From the pandemic, as we experience upon the partnerships with the partners from home and abroad, and now in the future, we will strengthen our collaborations. And the pandemic is not the end of this point of the time. Based on our lessons learned, we would like to focus on the examples and lessons learned. In this regard, the SK Bioscience, by strengthening our collaborations with the global institutions and the governments, and we can absolutely provide a lot of the better ideas for expanding the vaccine bio ecosystem as a key player in the industries based on our technical platforms and the process innovations. As we have received a lot of help and the assistance, and now it's a time that we can be actually a key player in the industries that can really contribute to strengthen the global collaborations for the ecosystem. And you can see that these are the 5 methodologies that we can strengthen our global ecosystem or globalization ecosystem. Of course, these are definitely needed and requiring our infrastructures and capabilities. In this regard, for the fast supply of the vaccines to around the world, the research and production capabilities are essential. SK Bioscience and the Research and Process Development Center R&D Center will be newly established in Songdo in Incheon in Korea, probably from the end of 2024 and early 2025. And the size is about the 5-fold of the current size of the Pangyo facilities now we have. And we'll also have the pilot production facilities as well. For the Open Innovation Labs, we'll be also participating in more partners for the public health program so that we can absolutely optimize and provide infrastructures and the platform for the further global cooperation. And L House, which is the production plant in Andong, in rural areas of Korea, under the pandemic, and AstraZeneca and the Novavax, the corona vaccines, were also produced via CMO and CDMO. Andong, the plant, is also the world-class, the EU GMP commercial production facilities by achieving the production track record. onwards. Though by 2024, the production capabilities will be increased by twofold, and it will be also increased by threefold by 2026, upon we try to upgrade and advance our production facilities, which can fulfill the US GMP with the full digitalized system, flexible single-use system for key modules will be also upgraded at the same time, so that we can absolutely have the very fast convergence during the pandemic, as we have the lesson learned from the pandemic via flexible and versatile production technologies. At this point of time, upon expanding our production facilities in Songdo and Andong in Korea, now we'll be putting our efforts to be one of the world-class biopharmaceutical training hub with our know-hows and capabilities as we have experience. To do so, we'll be also putting our collaborations with other global companies as well via incubation centers and the training programs with the biopharmaceutical experts as well. In addition, the WHO recently designated our company as one of the Korea's biopharmaceutical, the human resource hub. The industry guard will be also contributing our more efforts to provide more on-site training and education in nurturing the global production personnel. In doing so, by contributing to the improving the public health around the world, along with the growth of SK Bioscience, and probably the reason why we were able to achieve so fast was actually the support and cooperation from the government. And thankfully, the Bio and Digital Health Global, the Center, the national agendas have been established by the government as one of the top 10 agendas of the government. In this point of time, the bio industry's innovation, the growth, the measures and plans were announced recently. You can also refer to the summary here, but if you are interested in making the investment into the Korea for investors or investment businesses, please be aware of the big categories for your further investment in the future.
마무리하면서 저희 SK 바이오사이언스의 계획과
and these are planned commitments that we are trying to achieve for the SK Bioscience. The pandemic should be prepared during the peacetime. Therefore, we should not be complacent with the achievements that we have done and achieved from the COVID pandemic, but we'll be pursuing the globalization strategies by forming the global partnership for the next pandemic to occur in the future, by achieving the large-size infrastructures in Songdo and Andong. And this can also lead to the more collaborations with the various global partners, with attracting the more investment, so that these can lead to the more massive investment in the future. These are one of the examples that we have done, but we'll be also continuing to our efforts to the research and develop the further products and the further services. In this regard, with more global investors and more foreign businesses, we'll be also putting our best energy for the active investment and active R&D. Taking this opportunity, I would like to also thank all the participants for taking listen to my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vice President An Jae-hoon of SK Bioscience, for your talk. Yes, SK Bioscience is one of the leading companies in biopharmaceuticals, and the sector is a new growth engine for Korea. Thank you once again. And now we will move on to chips, which is the third sector of the BBC. Let's hear from an expert in academia about the outlook of semiconductors. Here is Dr. Shin Hoon-gyu, Vice Director of PulseTech National Institute for Nanomaterials Technology, and he will give us a talk on Power Semiconductor Korea, Opportunity and Challenges. Dr. Shin? Please welcome Dr. Shin.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. Today, I'd like to talk about Power Semiconductor Korea. I am not representing semiconductor, but I am a person who loves the power semiconductor and lead the industry. And it is my greatest honor to introduce you this industry of power semiconductor. While working at university, I have been working for companies who are working as a test bed. So as working as a president of the Test Bed Institute, I highlight the importance of the role of a test bed. And very recently, I launched my own company, and so I am the CEO myself. So I am combining the research center and the commercialization effort and teaching. So I'd like to make a presentation about it. And today I'd like to talk about the power semiconductor, which requires a relatively lower initial investment and with human resources, and that is fully supported by Korean infrastructure. As you can see here, semiconductor industry requires expertise and test bed and many advanced equipment and facilities. And also, it is kind of, it should be supported by the integrated support infrastructure and value chain. So as you can see here, this belongs to our university, but test bed is largely focusing compared to the memory, it requires relatively smaller investment. And if we combine our efforts, we can make a great investment and great challenge with a smaller investment. And let me just start with the power semiconductor. It becomes getting a lot of attention very recently, and the reason is very simple. The energy can be saved in the semiconductor. The energy can be saved in the battery, and we just think about how can the saved energy can be turned into the energy in the industry that we are trying to work on. And the power semiconductor is lying at the center. If you are saving the energy worth of 100 won, and if in the process of conversion we lost some of it, and that can be calculated as efficiency. So the power semiconductor is in the process to turning that energy. So it supports 5 to 10% of the system semiconductor. By doing so, they like to create some value chain. As you can see here in the screen, from the ingot growth to the wafering, and it can produce some kind of a process, and which is also considered as a chip, and it has a lot of applications. That is the value chain that we design currently. As you understand, since 2012, the power semiconductor have been tested to see its possibility of application in many different industries, and Korea have focused on gallium nitride and gallium oxide. As you can see here in this screen, high efficiency and high energy saving and miniaturization have been the main efforts that we put a lot of investment and efforts. The one thing we should remember is that chip fabrication is important, but the material itself is really important. So as I mentioned earlier, wideband related materials should meet diverse needs coming from the industry. The controversy these days are the driving distance for each vehicles, and it has become very competitive. Tesla are competing against the Lucid. One charge can make the vehicle run 100,000 kilometers, and one of the main power behind it is battery and the power semiconductor, which is largely deciding the energy conversion efficiency. And it requires R&D and investment and attention of the companies. And to grab a lot of attention, CAGR will be the key index. According to the very recent Yole development report, we have seen the CAGR in these industries And out of many wideband related materials,
특정 분야이긴 합니다. 전체 와이드밴드의 소지의 한 20%를
20% of the wideband materials are growing very fast up until 2024. And global companies or foreign companies need to invest in Korea because 6 areas are having diverse supply chain. If you are making most of these 6 different supply chains, then you can find some area where you can grow your businesses. Simply speaking, there is some company who are having everything. Instead of that, we can utilizing the network and cooperation between related companies, and that integrated knowledges can be translated into the final product, so that can be your competitiveness. So here in Korea, research center, university, and companies can work together, and that can be a kind of a new business model. And now I'd like to show you what kind of a model Korea is having. Korea is a small country, but we are powerhouse in semiconductor industry. As you can see here, a lot of universities and government-funded institutes and SK Hynix-led semiconductor companies and industry, and many venture companies have engaged in this industry. And these are the infrastructure and environment you can be exposed to in Korea. And based on that, the academy and industry of Korea have working on to expand the infrastructure of a power semiconductor. To this end, from 2017, we have hosted silicon carbide symposium every year. We are expected to have another one this year too. And this year, we will focus on the wideband materials. So industry, academy, and government will get together to have a big festival to promote this industry. And thanks to these efforts, the global recognize the importance of Korea. So in Switzerland, there is international conferences, and that we are honored to have that event for the first time in 30 years in one of the Asian countries, and we will have another one in Busan very soon. I think this will be a great opportunity to prowess Korea's technologies. And many Korean companies and universities are going abroad based on their global network. So when it comes to semiconductor and power semiconductor, we have built cooperation model with 34 institutes in 15 different countries, and we have actively exchanged with globally renowned experts across the world. So the Korea is not the country you can neglect if you are interested in making investment in the semiconductor. So it is an opportunity and challenge for Korea as well. We have infrastructure, technology, and human resources, but to support that, we are making all out efforts to make some kind of network and the supply chain to support that whole. We have our own supply chain, and my University of Postdoc is specialized in technology, and we also have a change of ground to support the startup. And the startup and change sounds similar, so we just combine that into change up. And that Change Up Center supports students to open up their own businesses. And I also have my own startup, and that's the facility to test power semiconductor. And all these efforts is ultimately to create a cluster. So the companies can be located inside the college, and the college can go into the company. So collaboration and cooperation model is really important. When it comes to the test bed, it's not the rep scale, but it's 8-inch scale wafer. So that with that, we can support the companies. Many companies of Korea are providing the services at the 4-inch, 8-inch, or 6-inch wafer, and government have supported a lot for that. And in addition, these kind of facilities and experts are not enough. We need to support continuous investment in R&D together with global institutes and companies. To support R&D to commercialization, the government is supporting the total solution system. There are many difficulties that can be resolved alone by one entity. Instead of solving some of the entity problems, we can resolve long-term application, and that can be resolved by one single company or one single country. So climate change has become a very big issue, and net zero also one of the important issues. While responding to global trend, we can resolve this long-term application together with many countries around the world. And as I mentioned earlier, power semiconductor is not only about chip manufacturing, but also developing the materials. So we are working on to develop ingot grower equipment with FDI, and Fraunhofer is helping us to develop the next generation process for the design and semiconductor. And the third is the space neutron reliability test that not many people pay attention to, and we are making challenge to that industry, and we are creating the value that we can enjoy in the future. The strengths of Korea is that one of the biggest strengths of Korea is that we have a semiconductor technology major in universities. Everything starts and ends in human beings, and nurturing the talent is really critical. And my postdoc, my university, is focusing on nurturing the decent talent who have good understanding about the semiconductor. So they are not only learning their lessons from the textbook, but also from the field, based on the industry and academic cooperation. Last but not least, the key to this event is that Korea is a candidate country of investment, but after listening to my presentation, I hope you make a final decision to make an investment into Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Shin, for your very great presentation. So we have listened to an overview of Korea's power semiconductor sector and its research and development capabilities. And so far, we have listened to 3 speakers give insights and their outlook on 3 key industry sectors in Korea. And I hope that their talks have provided you with a better understanding of Korea investment climate. And last but not least, we'll have a special talk given by Invest Korea Ambassador Bernd Stenger, who is the head of Helios Epicurio. And he will give a speech on real examples of investing in Korea and key advantages the nation has an investment destination. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. I'm happy to be back because I was here last time 2019, and in the last 2 years we could meet only virtual. Yeah, I'm representing here KOTRA in Frankfurt, so I'm doing business with Korea since many, many years, and therefore I was selected to also represent Korean companies in Germany and German companies in Korea. But I'm also here as a manager of Helios. We are a materials technology company, and I want to share a short success story with you out of the semiconductor field. But starting with our company, we are not so well known because we are always at the beginning of the supply chain dealing with materials. But as you can see, quite a good-sized company based in Germany, family-owned, founded many years ago. We are actually having 12 global business units, and I'm running one of them. And we are very proud, again, to be listed as a Fortune 500 company. And as you can see on our revenue and also on our employee chart, we have 1/3 of our business in Asia and also a big part of that here in Korea. So the story I'm having, and I keep it brief because I'm standing between you and lunch here, is about semiconductor materials. We heard from the speakers before that there's a very strong chip manufacturing industry here in Korea with Samsung and SK Hynix. But Korea has also the goal to go backwards into the materials and be less dependent on importing critical materials. And my business unit, we are working here with local Korean photoresist makers, and we provide them very special chemicals to be able to make these photoresists here locally in Korea. And we have the full spectrum of I-line, G-line, KRF, ARF, and also some activities in the EUV arena. But as my speakers before said, we were doing that in the last 2 years under very special conditions because traveling was almost not possible. That delayed some of the projects. But I can still say we make big progress, and facing these challenges, I learned a new word today from Professor Baldwin, friend shoring. That's exactly what we did. So when you have a lot of challenges ahead of you, you want to work with people where you can openly talk to and where you can trust to. And I can say these projects with the Korean companies are exactly going in this direction. Really open sharing, working together, facing technology challenges together and find solutions. That's really the basic for the success from my point of view. And I can also say these partnerships between Korean and German companies, not only Heraeus, also other German companies trust a lot to work with Korea, is the basis also for the future. And I really hope when we continue to work like this together, German companies and Korean companies, we will turn challenges into opportunities. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bernd Stenger. He became an Invest Korea ambassador this year, and I was told you wish to attend Invest Korea Week 2022 in person this time around. Thank you very much for your talk, in which you share many insightful observations. Yes, we were able to listen to speakers from Korea and other countries give their outlook on global investments and talk about the trend of Korea key industries. And I hope it has been a fruitful experience that will help you see Korea as an attractive investment attraction destinations. Well, written copies of the presentation given by each speaker are available for the participants with the exception of sensitive copyrighted contents. So if you would like to written a copy of presentation, please contact KOTRA and we'll assist you. So we've come to an end of a 2-hour-long Invest Korea Week 2022 opening ceremony and Global Investment Forum. And in this afternoon, we'll continue with BBC and Regional Specialized Industry Forum at the Grand Intercontinental Seoul Partners, and we have many more events prepared over the next 3 days, from November 7th through 9th. So we also have online investment promotion consultation, so please take a look at these programs to find if Korea is the investment destination you have been looking for. So please stay with us here at Invest Korea Week 2022, and this is end of the opening ceremony. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the